Greetings, YouTube. One of my subscribers, Anastasia, asked an interesting question to me the other day. She asked if I thought that mental health was more important than physical health. And I think that's actually a fairly complex question. I don't think it's an easy, I can shoot off a reply in a comment section of a YouTube video kind of a question. So I thought I'd tackle that question today, and I'd like to have people share their thoughts on the topic as well. So, a little bit of background. I was born with a predilection towards depression. My father suffers from depression. His father suffered from depression. For all I know, all the fathers in my father's side of the family suffer from depression. I know they're all alcoholics. So it wouldn't surprise me that they were self medicating themselves in response to their depression. Um, and both my father and my grandfather stopped drinking because they were told by their doctors, stop or you die. My father had a quadruple bypass surgery. He has a scar that goes from his ankle to his throat. It just opened up like a fish. And his father suffered a triple. Um, so I came out of the chute with a predilection to depression. Unfortunately, I was born into a family with an abusive drunk as my father. Um, and so that then led to my acquiring anxiety and led to my having post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, so all these things are intimately linked together, and they create a feedback loop. Now, because I had anxiety and depression and PTSD, it affected my ability to take care of myself. I did not exercise properly. In fact, I had an utter disdain towards exercise for decades. It also meant that I didn't eat properly. And so when I was young and had a high metabolism, it wasn't much of an issue. But beginning in my 20s, it became an issue as I began to put on weight. And in fact, I eventually ballooned to 235 pounds, which is pretty big for a person that's 5'8". And no, my bones are not big enough to hide the fact that I was obese. Um, and now I think I'm down to 170, 175. I can't remember. I haven't checked my weight in a while. The 170 last time I weighed it. But and all of these things, again, it's a feedback loop. They help to contribute to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and the onset of diabetes sooner, because I have a genetic predisposition to getting diabetes. But I think I could, if I'd eaten properly and exercised properly from like 18 forward, I think I probably could have forestalled my diabetes until I was in my retirement years. Um, I would have always had it. It would have kicked in at some point in my life, but instead of kicking in at age like 44, it might have not kicked in until I was 64 or 74, which would have been much superior to being diabetic at this age. And of course, because of the PTSD and the anxiety and the depression, I dutifully ignored the symptoms of diabetes for a very long time. And in fact, the reality is that once you are diagnosed with diabetes, you've probably had it anywhere between 8 to 10 years. You've just been ignoring it or didn't know the signs. I knew the signs. I ignored them. And so I can't feel my feet now. And at the moment of this recording, I'm suffering an ulcer related to the fact that I don't have proper circulation in my feet. So the blood doesn't get to the wound. It doesn't heal as quickly. A wound that you would heal without any difficulty, without any medical attention, is like just a blister, is something that I have to go see wound specialists on a regular basis. Like every week right now, I go see a wound specialist to have them look at my toe and tell me what they should be doing or what they need to remove more necrotic flesh, things like that. It isn't fun, okay? And all these things are linked. There is no way to separate them. My mental and my physical well-being are tied inextricably. My mental health and my physical health cannot be sundered. And this is the way I look at it. If I had not been born with a predilection to depression, if I had not been born with a predilection to diabetes, if I had not been possibly born with a predilection to addiction, all of these things would have meant that my life turned out much different. But I was born this way. And of the things that I am probably genetically inclined towards, at least I avoided the addiction. Um, so I consider that kudos for me. I didn't become an alcoholic. Yay! Um, but I can't separate them. So I can't answer your question, Anastasia. Do I think mental health or physical health are more important? Because, to my mind, they are one and the same thing. They're my health, with a capital H. And while I may discuss one or the other, specific mental or physical health, because there are times when one or the other is of more topical interests or more import at that moment, they're not separate. At least not for me. And I'm not saying that anyone else should look at them the way I look at them. You look at them in the way you want to look at them. You look at them in the way that helps you be the healthiest mentally and physically and holistically. And I suppose that's how I'm looking at this, from a kind of a holistic position. I am also a theist, so I think that is also rolled into this whole thing as well. So my holistic view of my mental and health and physical health also includes my spiritual health. And I think my spiritual health is doing pretty darn good. And lately, I think my mental health is doing pretty darn good. So the fact that my physical health isn't doing as well as I'd like it to do, I can deal with it. Because my mental and spiritual health are in a good position, it means that I can handle taking care of my physical health more readily. Now, there's a slight bit of irony here because I'm on vacation at the moment of the filming of this video, and it means that I'm eating very poorly. For example, I had 2 muffins for dessert last night. Woo! My wife made gluten-free blueberry muffins. They're quite tasty. But normally, I eat a very regimented diet. I have a very regimented exercise routine I use, even though at the moment I'm just pedaling. I'm still pedaling between 90 minutes to 3 hours every single day. I'm making sure I eat regularly. I make sure I take my supplements. I make sure I take the medication I take for my cholesterol, my high blood pressure, as well as my nerve blocker to help deal with the pain related to neuropathy, which is related to diabetes, which again, it's all linked. There is no separation. It's all connected. So I guess my answer, Anastasia, is that I have a rather holistic view of mental, physical, and spiritual health. I didn't always, but now I do. So that's where I am. So folks, tell me, what is your view of this topic? Do you think that one of these things is more important than the other? And what is your reasoning behind that thought? I and Anastasia, would like to know.